Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.
In South Africa, African creatives are dreaming up magical worlds, telling stories that break the boundaries of race and reason.
It's actually a market, not just in Africa, but around the world, for new kind of cultures and new kinds of stories.
You are not still upset about that one little thing that happened that one time.
But the blessing is that we kind of can create a show that almost owns a whole continent's culture in a way.
Building worlds that reach back into ancient folklore and project into outer space.
I think what's exciting about the opportunity in Africa is that we have 1.1 billion storytellers, and there's very little that historically has taken those stories into the mainstream world market, and animation has that unique ability to do that.
This is how Africans are animating their own story. This is Inside Africa.
I grew up in Soweto. Soweto is a township in South Africa, Johannesburg, and it had like a really cool artistic vibe. So when I'm growing up, I'm referencing everything around me, my surroundings, every sort of little detail. So I started drawing probably at grade 3 with my best friend. We would just sketch all the time.
Terence Maluleke spent his childhood doodling, little realizing that one day he would be quite literally drawing his own destiny.
My parents call cartoons like amapopai. Amapopai is cartoons in my language. So they were actually skeptical about me studying amapopai because it doesn't seem like a career choice. So it was something that was discouraged at a young age. So I just had to be confident that this is going to work out. I started off with the line of action. So if my pose is like this, the line of action is a C shape.
Terence is now a professional animation artist, still inspired by Soweto. But he wants his big gamble to be a sure thing for other kids. With his equally talented friend Panda, he runs Kasi Sketchbook. They're drawing clubs for teenagers.
We are all different, so it's sort of like paradoxical to try to be unique. You are already unique, just tell your own stories. It would have been nice if I had people to encourage me to sort of keep drawing, to keep doing what I love, being creative.
Get your structures right, legs right, my arms right.
Creativity, it wasn't supported as a kid, and my parents didn't support creativity that much. Kasi Sketchbook is there to sort of get every sort of creative in the township and sort of groom them to become artists and designers, to become architects, to become anything in the creative field.
And it's about the feeling of what you're looking at on paper.
Terence and Panda believe they are planting a seed. The fertile ground is the global animation industry, an industry which Africans have traditionally not been represented at all.
High schools don't have very good art programs, and so students aren't ready. So unless you actually have money for a private, art lessons outside of school, you're really not going to be ready for the industry.
Vanessa works for South Africa's leading animation company, Triggerfish. The company invests in African artists and helps incubate talent by sponsoring events like this workshop.
We very much believe that talent is everywhere, but opportunity is not. And it's really about identifying creators, identifying artists, finding African stories and making them, producing them.
Anyone else who else wants to post? Yeah!
In the growing animation industry here, Triggerfish is uniquely successful.
There's a very big commercial industry, loads of servicing work happening, which is wonderful, but other studios and Triggerfish are just like, we want to make African films, our own films. Our composers are local, our storytellers are local, our artists are local. Help us do that. And so that's a big challenge in this growing industry.
This feels like a man, whereas that other thing doesn't feel like a man. It feels like a creature that is designed, and that I think is much stronger.
Their success has paved the way for the creation of other African stories.
When you put them side by side, one does complement the other.
There's been one or two big animated features and series come out of Africa, but not a lot, because it just takes so much. You got to get so much support behind it financially and resource-wise and everything to justify creating a show. That there's a lot of talent yearning to kind of get their stuff out there, but the resources is kind of a constraint at the moment.
Die Printe Studios in Johannesburg has made a number of dramatic films set in South Africa. But they are about to start production on a series.
How do you text with those things?
About an African spider god, Anansi.
It's the story of a little boy, Theo, who grows up on the streets of a city that's similar to Johannesburg, but is not quite Johannesburg, but it's an African metropolis.
I can't do this alone.
But Anthony, you have never been alone.
He one day discovers that his shadow is moving on its own, and he doesn't know why. And after a series of other random seeming events happen, he finds out that he's actually what's called a medium, which in our world is a human being who's connected to an African spirit, an ancient god. And he happens to be connected to the ancient trickster god named Anansi, who is a kind of playful spider god from African folklore.
It's been a 4-year slog for Isaac to get the Anansi series to where it is today. Isaac is thrilled to have discovered the duo Terrence and Panda as his concept artists. He feels they bring an authentic township feel to the project.
I think the main character that we have in Anansi, which is Theo, is a reflection of me as well. Even the way he looks, his fashion, his style. So now I get to enforce my own stories into a character in a big budget animation. So I think it's a dream come true.
And luck is on their side.
The movie is about you and me and all.
This is inspired by the African continent and it belongs here.
The blockbuster Disney film Black Panther has drawn record audiences all over the world and has been hailed as a turning point for the African story.
I think that selling Anansi post Black Panther and selling it before Black Panther are two totally different things. I mean, Black Panther wasn't just a success, it's one of the biggest successes of all time. And so anybody who is saying, I don't think that Anansi is going to work because it's too African, or I don't think that people are going to understand these creatures because they're not grounded in European mythology, I think it's that argument is blown out of the water.
Big international players are watching what Africa can produce. This industry veteran from Japan is a guest of the Cape Town International Animation Festival.
I come here for the second year because, again, part of the reason is because I've seen some designs, I've seen some colors that I've not seen in Japan or in North America. And so I find that there's a huge opportunity, there's a distinctness, there's originality that hasn't been fully exploited and only the people here can drive, and I find that as a huge potential.
The festival attracted record numbers of people this year.
Die Printe was founded in 2009.
And it intends to grow bigger and better as the world takes notice.
Africa is an incredibly attractive option for our international delegates at the moment because of the content creation and the type of stories we're telling.
In fact, I think what's going to happen, as Hollywood does, is that everyone's going to be looking for the next Black Panther.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch for easy, fast and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Sunday, we have so much to talk about. Van talks to the Emmy-winning star of Big Bang Theory, Jim Parsons, and Candace Owens, the young conservative leader behind some of Kanye West and President Trump's tweets. The Van Jones Show, Sunday on CNN.
This is the 5th year of the Cape Town International Animation Festival.
Okay, guys, we're gonna start a new movie.
A showcase for the best of the small but tenacious animation industry in Africa.
Predominantly our studios are based in Cape Town and in Joburg, but 58% of the gaming and animation studios are here in Cape Town. So the largest growth that we're finding in Africa is happening in South Africa, certainly from a quality point of view and from an output point of view.
Cape Town is the most amazing place to make animation and to make media. It happens to be really well placed in terms of time zone and in terms of language. So we can operate with partners in Germany, in France, in the UK on a time zone that's very similar, if not the same, to theirs. We can also do it at a price point that's very palatable to those markets. And I think when you bring those elements together, in terms of the city, which is offering a lot of support to the creative industry, it makes it a great place to make animation.
The festival is a place for animators to work and play, but it is also an important meeting space between African and global players.
The type of stories that are being told in Europe and America are the very same. They're very homogenous. They know these stories. So if there's going to be a different voice, it's probably going to come from our continent.
South African animation had a slow start in telling its own story, partly because TV arrived so late under apartheid politics. Up until 1976, TV was banned in South Africa because it was seen as a bad influence.
It was great excitement in South Africa when they finally condescended to allow South Africa to have television.
Rod Campbell was a dreamer who experimented with animation as a hobby. In a workshop at his home, he was possibly the first South African to make an animated film.
Why, hello everyone. Welcome to Roddy's Puppetland Film Studio. Well, I agree it does not look like much of a film studio. Perhaps not as glamorous as the ones that we see in Hollywood, but nevertheless, a lot of wonderful things are being done here.
Rod had been playing around with puppetry and film since he was a child. But his spontaneous decision to leave the aircraft industry to follow his dream got him into trouble.
As a result, my dad never spoke to me for 3 months. When I quitted my job and joined television, I applied virtually within the next week, phoned up people. I remember the chap, Johan Roos, I phoned him, and he said, Rod, we're not even ready. We're just trying to set up departments here. We don't even know what's going on. There were no training schools, anything. And I said, well, I've got a portfolio. I'd love to join you guys. And that's how it started.
He threw himself into the world of model making for children's TV series. Without much backing or resources, they had to make it up as they went along, relying on imagination and ingenuity.
We broke through that medium very successfully with the public. We started getting thousands of letters. It was like almost like a mini Hollywood. It was just piles of letters coming from kids with little drawings of the characters, and we realized that we had something going.
Rod's daughter, Shani, now teaches animation to the next generation.
Maybe his little tail needs to skip straight.
Shani lectures in a high-tech animation school in Cape Town.
The problem with the young generation is they don't have anything to work off. This is why they're inspired by manga and Japanese-style animation, because they have such a strong heritage and there's so much material that they can easily identify that's Japanese or that is American. So South Africa, we're right at the beginning, which makes it exciting for us, but that more difficult.
The school prepares students for a career ahead. The degree culminates in films like these.
But one thing I've learned of fighting one's demons is if they're not yours, you'll probably just feed them.
I want them to be excited about going into the industry and creating something of their own and changing the industry one frame at a time. It is so satisfying to see our graduates win awards and being involved in box office productions when we see the influences they've had in studios like Triggerfish and Sunrise.
Sunrise is a Cape Town-based studio which has recently made history with an upbeat TV series for little children. Enter Monkey and Trunk.
A monkey and an elephant, happy as can be.
They go on adventures in Africa and encounter different things, and all through it, it's about friendship, it's about bravery, it's about working together. And that's the core of Monkey and Trunk.
Monkey and Trunk is the first locally made animated program that can be viewed by Africans in sub-Saharan Africa. Normally, local broadcasters cannot afford to buy African-made animation.
We really have something unique to offer creatively through our experience, through our background, through our upbringing, and through the challenges that are part of the South African story. I think there is a huge amount of creativity that comes out of that experience. I think what we need to do more of as local producers is tell those unique stories that we have to offer.
With this series, Sunrise gets to own their creative content. They hope it signals a new trend, meaning greater opportunities and more animation jobs in Africa.
South Africa could be the gateway for animators and for a more diverse industry, simply because we have studios that are a little bit more established. So simply by being able to have internships, being able to nurture and develop the talent, these studios are probably going to be able to developing the next generation of talent.
But for Rod, it's terribly important that nobody forgets how it all started. In his workshop, he continues to create new puppets for another story.
That's when I feel most complete, is when I'm working, when I'm making something. I'm sure that other people, when they play the piano, or anybody that does art, has that feeling it's not about you, it's about something else.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Think Zenith. In today's fast-moving, fast-changing world, you need a financial partner that understands your unique expectations. A bank with presence in major financial centers across the world, with the enabling platform to facilitate seamlessly, whenever, wherever, however. A bank with best-in-class financial solutions from a superb combination of technology and human touch. For easy, fast, and secure banking that creates real value. Turning dreams into reality is now in your hands. People, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
CNN exclusive. Former top Trump aide Steve Bannon, strategist, populist, provocateur. He helped put Trump in office. What's his next act? A Fareed Zakaria special, The Steve Bannon Interview, Saturday.
The Atlantic Ocean breaks on Cape Town's famous beaches. It's an ocean populated by lithe seals and their natural enemies, great white sharks. It's also the perfect waters for a group of ambitious filmmakers exploring the boundaries of South Africa's budding animation industry. They have dived deep down to observe these creatures in their natural habitat to create an animated film called SEAL Team.
It's a story about a group of SEALs who take on the impossible and win. And it's about what does it take to do that? What kind of courage do they need to have in the beginning, but also what kind of naivety they need to have in the beginning to be able to take on this incredible job.
In some ways, this is a parallel to the story of Triggerfish itself. The company started in 1996 in Cape Town as a small, independent studio with an outsized dream.
Our dream was always to be a big studio, making big movies and big TV series. But yeah, it took us 20 years to get there. In the beginning, we just, blasted ahead, and we figured it out as we went, and somehow we kept afloat.
Fast forward 2 decades. Numerous awards adorn the office, and the company has made 2 internationally successful feature films shown in 150 countries in 27 languages.
I'm Kai from Katundu. Never heard of it, but you're from Zambezia now.
2009 was when we got funding for Zambezia, and gosh, we had no clue what it was like to make a film.
Where is it? Double deluxe?
We launched into that with gusto and passion. Had we known what we were going to face, I don't think we would have embarked and started the journey. And back to back, we did Kumba as our next film.
What happened to him? Something wrong with him? What could it mean?
It's a bad sign.
Same experience, the same knowledge, the same team went into that film. And it was tough. It was really tough. And it's all because it's a young industry and we're pioneers. No one's really done it before.
And this year got them their most powerful calling card yet to Hollywood. An Oscar nomination for their work on the film Revolting Rhymes.
I think that the Oscars just help elevate our status.
What great big eyes you have, Grandma.
Oh, the better to see you with.
The time we met with all the studios, started conversations now that are very exciting with big studios to bring our stories to the world through the most established platforms in the world.
Triggerfish's faithful assembled at the office at 3 a.m. on a Monday morning to wait for the great Oscar announcement in real time.
And the Oscar goes to... Don't say La La Land, don't say La La Land.
Dear basketball!
Although they didn't win, this time a door has been opened.
So we do get despondent at times, just saying, well, we can't compete, so we have to be smarter and cleverer and have to have our stories shine. And so we're trying to look at storytelling and to make sure that we tell African stories in an amazing way.
Until now, African children have grown up reading and watching stories from other cultures. The success of the TV series Anansi and its township setting is a sign that things are changing.
When I conceived the show, there was a specific look and feel that I wanted to create, and that was one that reflected urban Africa in the way that we live it, and not in the way that is usually portrayed in global media, which is not like the sad, depressed kind of thing. But Johannesburg, where it's thriving and there's life, and there's coolness and there's fashion and there's music.
Heritage is one of Terence's guiding principles. He identifies as an African of Tsonga descent, and this comes out in his creations.
What I believe in is if you draw from what you are, your culture makes you the person you are today. So it becomes easier to take references from all your experiences as a childhood. So me being Tsonga is who I am, and my work becomes honest, and certain people can relate to the work in a deeper level than some other people can.
While animation offers a vehicle for Africa to celebrate its stories, there is a growing sense of urgency to make films that work that magic.
As Africans, if we can also come up with our own identity, and that comes through telling our stories, embracing our own cultures, infusing it into the animation world, infusing it into our artwork, infusing our backgrounds into the stories, that will make it unique.
Inside Africa, in association with Zenith Bank.